What's up, lifers, and welcome to the Daily Standup, where we're giving you fresh new customer success ideas every single day. I got my man Rob here. Rob, do you want to say hi?
What's up, lifers?
I got my man JP here. JP, do you want to say hi?
In the flesh, baby.
In the flesh. And I am your host. My name is Dylan Young. And the reason JP's saying that is maybe we sound different. I know we look different if you're watching on YouTube, and I can smell the difference.
Oh, yeah.
This is the first time we're all in the same room together recording this show.
Yeah.
100 and something episodes later, and we finally did it, boys.
Probably know what the Rock is cooking.
And it smells like bergamot and
Upsells.
upsells. That's
Gotcha.
That's right. Well, we spent enough time in Saks.
Plenty. Came out smelling great.
Anyway, the reason we're here, in case you're wondering, is we just wrapped up attending the Customer Success Collective CS Festival here in Boston, where our good friend Daddy's Little Meatball,
Bro.
again, another visual reference, please, you got to get on the video.
5.
I think he's
Rob Zambito
5.
MC the event. Did a fantastic job. Our little boy is growing up. And we've got some things to say about this event.
Yep.
Rob, you volunteered. You're going to take it away with the very first learning from our time at the Customer Success Festival, Boston.
Yeah, we should talk about it. There was a lot. There was a lot of good stuff. A lot of good topics. Meaty.
Yeah.
Like call it a spicy little meatballs.
Spicy. There were some spicy meatballs. I think the biggest spicy meatball that's on my palate, on my mind right now, is executive sponsorship.
Ooh.
We had the privilege of Jeff Justice Williams
Yep.
educating us on the power of executive sponsorship. Like, what does it mean to get a seat at the executive table of not just your internal team, which comes up a lot in conversations in our circles, but your customers' executive team? How do you get a hold of their attention? How do you get on their radar? Right? These people might have 30, 40 vendors who are trying to talk with them. So how do we make ourselves...
Are you reading notes right now? Is that what this is?
I'm doing a little check on the notes.
Okay.
I'm not texting.
I was just going to say, this is a different animal here. We're all together. I can see when you're not paying attention in class.
Yeah. No, it was
Normally
notes.
me.
Notes for the class.
Yeah, typing away.
Checking my notes.
Yeah. I'm not tippity tapping
Tapping
like
my-
this guy.
Tippity tapping. Okay, I apologize. Daddy's little meatball.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so it's a tough topic, right? Because, you know, to your customer's executive sponsor, their veto, as I've referred to them, their very important top officer, who I've said before is not just my greasy uncle in Staten Island who taught me how to throw a liver punch, but their veto, their very important top officer, is hard to get a hold of, right?
Yeah.
Because he or she is getting chased down by tons of different vendors. You're probably the last thing on their mind. The only time you get on their radar is when things are broken, typically. So the truest form of being a CSM is being someone that person actually actively wants to speak to and even wants the advice from. But few of us are actually at that level with our clients.
What tactics did you take away from Jeff's presentation around how to... I will admit, it took me about halfway through his presentation. It was brilliant. It was good. It had a lot of good statistics, and JP loves that those statistics were actually cited.
Yeah, let's talk about the stats first. I feel like that's useful.
Before I can ask my question.
Yeah.
Okay. It's fun.
Let's do it. Because why is it hard, right? I mean, that's the stats point out why this is so hard.
Well, the one thing I'll say is that it took me a long time to understand that what he was actually talking about was a program internally for your executives to interface with their executives.
Right.
Because I think the low-hanging fruit tactic is, well, just get your executive to call him.
Right.
Right? But the stat that stood out to me, to your point, was he pulled up one that was every year, on average, 27% of a company's headcount attrites. Is that the way you say it?
Yeah.
Attrit.
I don't think it's a
Is it
traits.
Trit.
A traits?
Okay, then we're at odds with this man.
It's a trace.
Well, we're saying both, so you know what we're saying. So then in theory, though this is not actually how it works, in less than 4 years, an entire company turns over on average. Now, obviously, that's going to change between roles, but that was really interesting and points to what you were alluding to, which is why it can be so difficult to gain a foothold at that level. I think a foothold as the gentlemen show off their Patrick Ewing high top sneakers, one in gold patent leather and one in neon pink leopard print. And that's the last thing I'm going to say about these shoes. I am working with children. So, Rob, knowing that, or are there any other stats that you thought were particularly interesting?
Well, so the stat you shared speaks to why it's challenging.
Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
And you might just look at that and be like, all right, cool. Well, okay, it's a challenge, but why should I care? The stat on the other side of the table is the impact that it can make if you can get ahead of these executive changes. And the impact of executive engagement, according to Jeff's research, is that it can improve gross retention by 13%. And that's not small. Like the difference between 80 and 93% retention is massive for a startup or any company, not even just a startup.
It can be, 7 figures? I mean,
Yeah.
And you could still be considered a small company.
Yeah.
And it can have that level of impact.
Right. Especially you multiply that over the years that customer remains a customer.
And the additional expansion opportunities that present themselves because they're still around.
Right.
JP, I know you were vibing with Jeff.
I was vibing.
You thought he put together a great presentation.
I did.
He is easily the voice of God.
Easily.
He does have a great voice. If we lost James Earl Jones, somebody's got to care.
The crown, right?
Yeah.
It's going to be
Might as well be Jeff Justice Williams, man.
with a name like that.
Yeah, exactly, right?
James Earl Jones,
Jeff Justice Williams. Yeah,
Good
yeah.
one. What was your take on it?
So what I loved, first of all, is that in the beginning, he really made the call out like, hey, I lead both our enterprise and our scale teams. So what I'm going to be talking about is more of an enterprise strategy. If you want to talk more about scaled, see me later. Yeah. I love this because it shows a nuanced approach to customer success.
Right.
And that's really not even that fine of a nuance, right? He's just really saying like, hey, talking about executive sponsorship. If you're working with scaled accounts that are under a certain amount of money, well, then executive sponsorship, to me, the way it's going to maybe relevant for me is with accounts that are big names, but only spending so much money, right? So if one of my, I'm just going to say Johnson & Johnson, let's say that they happen to be one of my clients. And like, if I'm on scaled, and let's say that means they're only spending like 10K with me or something like that. But we know that Johnson & Johnson can spend a lot more money. Now, maybe I have a lot more clients that are small, they don't have that potential, but I should probably be thinking about that executive sponsorship potentially with Johnson & Johnson, right? Even though that account's living with me on scaled, I should be thinking about what's the executive sponsorship for this, because there's clearly some potential there. And I think that like, that's the important thing. Like, we don't want to get executive sponsorship just because we're doing it, because there's a real opportunity there. So for me, I see the opportunity as, hey, I may be scaled by virtue of the size of the ARR, ACV, but there's a real potential here if I can get these people on the phone to talk about, well, what's going on. Because as we can see, sometimes these places are siloed and there may be people using different solutions. And so it may not just be that team. Maybe I need to use them to get to another department, right? Where we can get this sort of larger buy-in. But the only way we can really do that sometimes is to talk to someone who's at the top, someone who can maybe mandate that change more, because as we know, sometimes when they don't spend as much money, they're more likely to let you go. Right? Because if they're spending more money, they clearly see more value in you, right? So
I looked at it a different way. And I'm going to present this really quickly, and then I want to get Rob's take on both, because I'm sure you've had more exposure to this in both than either of us, just by virtue of the work you do. I actually think of it as, oh, I'm sorry, am I boring you? JP got his flu shot yesterday, so he's working through it. He is here. He's a trooper. Thank you so much.
Get your flu shots, baby.
Yes, get your flu shots. Get your COVID shots. Stay safe, everybody.
Except Aaron Rodgers. You stay doing what you're doing, baby.
Yeah, stay immunized.
Get those rock crystals.
However you do it. Ayahuasca and crystals.
Yeah.
No, so the way I thought of it, I'm not taking anything away from the way you just described that. I think that's valid. I thought of it as you could do the same motion and not use the word executive. When it's a smaller value, the hierarchy that works on it is going to be low, right? But you can still use a lot of the same things, like you can do a skip level
Right.
on their side, and you can also bring in a skip level from your side. So your boss's boss. Show a little bit of muscle, but it's not necessarily a CXO, right? Not necessarily a senior VP.
Right.
And it still shows we have multiple levels of the organization that are interested in this account. And we'd like to see the same from your side.
Yeah.
Not necessarily the heavy artillery. So, Rob, I'd love to hear what you have to say as we close this out.
Yeah, it makes me think of when I was in food. We sold to a very...
What exactly did you do?
I did a lot of things. I did all the things.
All the things.
The dirtiest of things. But it was just dirty. It was sticky occasionally. Anyway.
It's hard to stay clean.
It's hard to stay clean. Anyway, we sold to, at one point, a very small subdivision of Netflix. And it was enough to put the logo on our website, actually. Cool. But the thing is, the whole nature of the game was to figure out how to leverage our local buyer, basically, of this one department to then expand to the broader logo of Netflix. And that took a lot of ingenuity, a lot of persistence to basically leverage the person who somehow, by some sheer coincidence, was somebody I knew from college, which helped to get him to work our way up to his boss and then sell cross-departmentally to other departments, which I could see happening if you're selling you don't have to be selling food. You could be selling like workflow software or marketing software or whatever. If you can find applications in other facets of the business and you can identify the local economic buyers of each of those departments, there's a ton of expansion opportunity there. That really helps the value of the work we do in CS.
It sounds like just more creative methods for expanding.
Right. Which is hard because usually we're so worried about I've got so much going on with my current accounts, I can barely think about taking on more.
Yeah.
The only way I'll take on more is if sales sells it, I receive it because I have to. Well,
that's our time, guys. Fantastic. We had a ton of fun at the Customer Success Festival here in Boston. We're going to have some more topics on this, but for now, we've got to say goodbye.
Ta-da!
You've been listening to the Daily Standup by Lifetime Value. Please note that the views expressed in these conversations are attributed only to those individuals on this recording and do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of their respective employers. For all inquiries, please reach out via email to dylan@lifetimevaluemedia.com. Find us on YouTube @LifetimeValue and find us on the socials @LifetimeValueMedia. Until next time.